The story of British homes between 1955 and 1960 begins on streets still marked by the war. Many families lived in cramped terraces. Others waited for a council house allocation. Demand was high, hope was higher, life was changing fast. Subscribe to the channel today for more stories about Britain's homes between 1955 and 1960. The end of rationing created a new sense of possibility. Families wanted space. They wanted privacy. They wanted a front garden with a low brick wall. Suburbs expanded around cities like London, Birmingham, and Manchester. Builders promoted clean lines and simple layouts. Mid-century architecture replaced the patchwork repairs of the immediate post-war years. Prefabs were still occupied. Many were cold and aging, but they carried memories of survival. New council estates appeared on former farmland. Streets followed planned grids. Houses came with indoor toilets, modern sinks, and coal sheds. These upgrades changed daily routines. Domestic life felt more comfortable. Women listened to the BBC Home Service while cooking on new electric stoves. Children played near quiet cul-de-sacs. An Austin Morris passing by was still unusual. Local shops supplied essentials before supermarkets spread. A $1,000 budget in 1955 offered real choices for many families. It could secure a deposit on a semi-detached house. It could fund improvements, like new windows or a tiled fireplace. It marked the start of a decade where British households aimed for stability, dignity, and a better way of living. In 1955, $1,000 was a decisive amount for any British family. The average annual wage sat near $400. Most households relied on a single income. Many still saved coins in tins placed on the mantelpiece. A sum like $1,000 represented several years of discipline. It offered access to choices that had been impossible during wartime austerity. A buyer with $1,000 could secure a deposit on a new semi-detached house in a growing suburb. Developers priced many mid-century homes between $2,000 and $2,500. Building societies expanded lending after years of strict controls. Families who once expected to rent council houses now imagined ownership. It shifted how people viewed security, status, and the future. The money could also fund improvements on older terraced houses. Owners replaced damaged roofs. They upgraded coal fireplaces. They installed new tiled bathrooms. DIY magazines encouraged simple repairs. Many households used the extra funds to purchase appliances like a Hoover vacuum or a Creda cooker. These items changed daily routines. $1,000 was also enough to leave prefab life behind. Prefabs were fading. They were cold in winter. They required constant maintenance. A family with savings could move to a brick-built home with better insulation and modern plumbing. This move transformed comfort levels. The value of $1,000 shaped neighbourhoods. It pushed families toward quieter streets. It created demand for new schools and bus routes. It marked the moment when home ownership expanded beyond the middle class. And for many, it was the key that opened the door to a more stable life. By the mid-1950s, Britain was moving outward. Cities felt crowded and worn. Families wanted quieter streets and more light. Suburban estates offered both. Councils and private developers opened new plots on the edges of towns. Roads followed orderly layouts. Pavements were wider. Front gardens gave homes a sense of space that inner-city terraces could not match. Semi-detached houses became the symbol of upward mobility. They provided 2 floors, a small garden and a clear separation from neighbours. Many included a dedicated coal store, a simple dining room, and a newly tiled kitchen. These features appealed to families who had grown up in cramped wartime conditions. The promise of privacy was powerful. Building societies supported the expansion. Mortgages became easier to obtain. Developers promoted modern materials and reliable heating. Families visited show homes on weekends. They walked through clean hallways. They inspected fitted cupboards. They imagined a stable future. New estates also brought new routines. Children played on safe cul-de-sacs. Parents walked to local shops for bread, milk, and newspapers. Buses connected these areas to city centres. The arrival of an Austin A30 or a Ford Zephyr in a driveway marked a new kind of independence. These estates shaped social identity. A move to a semi-detached home signaled progress for working and lower-middle-class families. It changed how people viewed community, comfort, and stability. And it defined the look of Britain as it entered the second half of the 1950s. Council estates in the late 1950s formed the core of Britain's housing recovery. Thousands of families relied on them after years of overcrowding and bomb damage. These estates offered predictable rents, solid construction, and a level of comfort that many had never experienced. Standard layouts included 2 or 3 bedrooms, a small garden, indoor plumbing, and coal heating. These features set them apart from older terraces, with outside toilets and damp walls. The architectural style was simple and functional. Houses were built in brick, with clean mid-century lines and practical room arrangements. Streets followed clear patterns, with green spaces and play areas between rows. Local shops stood near bus stops. Schools were planned within walking distance. This design created a stable environment for families rebuilding their routines. A savings reserve of $1,000 gave council tenants important choices. It allowed upgrades such as better flooring, improved fireplaces, or new kitchen fittings. Families invested in appliances like a washing machine, a wireless radio, or a modern paraffin heater. These additions changed daily life and reduced household labor. For some, $1,000 also opened the path to leaving council accommodation. Right-to-buy policies had not begun, but families could use the money to move into a small privately built semi-detached house. This shift marked a step toward long-term ownership. Council estates shaped social mobility. They offered security at a time when wages were modest and the future felt uncertain, and they provided the stable foundation from which many families entered the growing property market of the late 1950s. Prefabs were introduced as emergency housing after the war. By 1955, many were still occupied. They were small, lightweight, and built from aluminium or timber panels. Most had 2 bedrooms, a compact kitchen, and a single coal heater. Insulation was weak, roofs needed frequent repairs, yet these homes carried a strong sense of community. Residents often knew every neighbor on the street. Children played on quiet verges. Laundry lines stretched between metal posts behind each unit. Prefabs were affordable, rents were low, running costs were minimal. A family with $1,000 could dramatically improve comfort. They could add better flooring, replace worn windows, or install modern appliances. A new cooker or a small refrigerator changed the way meals were prepared. Many households purchased electric heaters to supplement coal. Small improvements produced real results. Despite their limitations, prefabs offered independence at a time when housing demand was intense. Young couples used them as stepping stones. Single parents relied on their manageable size. Elderly tenants valued the simple layout and easy access. Prefabs also shaped early suburban expansion, often placed on the outer edges of towns where new estates were planned. By the late 1950s, councils began phasing them out. Brick-built homes replaced them, streets changed, communities shifted. But the prefab era remains an important chapter in Britain's housing history. It showed how modest resources, careful planning, and determination helped families rebuild stability in the post-war years. A British home in 1955 was practical, modest, and focused on routine. Rooms were small but organized. Most houses had a coal fire as the main heat source. Families carried buckets of coal from the shed every morning. Kitchens were becoming more modern. New electric stoves replaced older ranges. Many households purchased a refrigerator for the first time. These appliances reduced daily labor and changed how food was stored and prepared. Mid-century furniture defined the look of the living room. Low wooden sideboards, patterned armchairs, and polished dining tables became common. Families displayed radios on shelves and kept magazines neatly stacked. The BBC Home Service played in the background while meals cooked. Evenings were predictable. Children finished homework at small desks. Parents listened to news or light programs after work. Bedrooms were simple. Built-in cupboards were rare. Clothes hung on metal racks. Bedding was heavy during cold months. Many homes still relied on hot water bottles. Bathrooms included basic tiled walls and small sinks. A new water heater was considered a major upgrade. $1,000 allowed families to install better flooring, new carpets, or modern lighting. Daily tasks shaped the rhythm of life. Washing was done with early twin-tub machines or by hand. Ironing required time and patience. Yet families took pride in keeping a tidy home. These routines gave structure and comfort. They reflected the values of a country moving from hardship towards stability. British neighbourhoods between 1955 and 1960 moved at a slower and steadier pace. Streets were quiet for most of the day. Children played near lampposts with skipping ropes and tin can games. Traffic was rare. An Austin A30 or a Ford Zephyr passing through was enough to make everyone look up. Pavements felt safe. Parents watched from doorways while chatting with neighbors. These daily interactions shaped trust and routine. Local shops anchored community life. Families bought bread, milk, and vegetables from small corner stores. The butcher knew regular customers by name. Newsagents sold cigarettes, comics, and the radio times. Many streets had a post office within walking distance. These businesses created movement and conversation throughout the week. Council estates and new suburban roads encouraged close social ties. Residents organized small gatherings. Children walked to school together. Evening routines were predictable. The smell of coal fires drifted across gardens during winter. People exchanged household tools or borrowed sugar without hesitation. This cooperation reflected a culture built on shared rebuilding after the war. Public transport connected neighborhoods to city centers. Buses arrived on reliable schedules. Many families did not own cars, so the bus stop became another meeting point. Community halls hosted dances, church fairs, and youth clubs. These activities strengthened bonds. The rhythm of these streets influenced how families viewed stability and belonging. It defined the character of mid-century Britain and shaped the experience of living in new and improving homes. DIY culture grew quickly in Britain during the late 1950s. Families wanted to improve their homes without relying on expensive labor. Hardware shops expanded their stock. Magazines, such as Practical Householder, offered clear instructions for beginners. Weekends became dedicated to fixing, painting, and upgrading. This movement shaped the look and comfort of many mid-century houses. A budget of $1,000 allowed meaningful improvements. Homeowners replaced old coal fireplaces with tiled modern versions. They installed new linoleum in kitchens and hallways. Many added better lighting or fitted cupboards to increase storage. Paint became more affordable, and families often refreshed exterior walls or garden fences. These small upgrades increased property value and improved daily life. Bathrooms were common targets for renovation. New water heaters made hot baths more reliable. Households installed brighter tiles and sturdier taps. Some families added a second sink or improved drainage. These changes reduced the inconvenience that older homes often carried. DIY also reflected pride in ownership. Parents taught children how to use basic tools. Neighbors shared ladders, hammers, and leftover paint. Projects created conversation across streets. Each improvement made homes feel newer and more comfortable. The movement helped shape the identity of the growing suburbs. Houses looked cleaner and more uniform. Gardens were tidier. Fences stood straighter. And for many families, $1,000 turned simple houses into homes that felt prepared for the decade ahead. Home ownership in the late 1950s carried deep social meaning for British families. It represented stability after years of rationing, shortages, and temporary housing. A house was more than a building. It was proof of progress. Working-class households viewed ownership as a major achievement. It marked a step away from overcrowded terraces and damaged wartime streets. It signaled a future with fewer uncertainties. A deposit funded by $1,000 changed expectations. Families who once expected to rent council houses now imagined a semi-detached home with a small garden. This shift created pride. It gave parents the sense that they were securing something lasting for their children. Many believed that a privately owned home offered dignity and independence. It allowed families to decide how to decorate, renovate, or expand without waiting for council approval. Ownership also influenced social identity. Streets with new homeowners developed stronger feelings of responsibility. Gardens were trimmed more carefully. Front steps were scrubbed on weekends. Neighbors compared improvements, such as new linoleum, modern fireplaces, or fitted kitchen units. These small differences shaped community impressions. The promise of a better life guided decisions. A quiet cul-de-sac, a nearby school, and a clean living room with a BBC Home Service playing in the background created a sense of comfort. Home ownership symbolized entry into a stable, middle-class lifestyle. It shaped how families viewed opportunity, security, and their place in a recovering Britain. Many features of 1955-1960 British homes have changed. Streets are busier, local shops have declined, coal fires disappeared with new heating systems, prefabs have almost vanished. Council estates look different after decades of redevelopment. The quiet rhythm of neighborhoods shifted as car ownership grew. Daily routines no longer revolve around small errands, shared tools, or weekend DIY repairs. Yet much remains recognizable. Semi-detached houses built in the 1950s still stand across the country. Their simple layouts continue to suit modern families. Front gardens, bay windows, and mid-century brickwork remain common sights. Many homeowners preserve original doors, fireplaces, or wooden floors. These details keep the character of the period alive. Suburban estates from the era still feel orderly. Cul-de-sacs remain safe for children. Schools and bus routes follow patterns established more than 60 years ago. The desire for stability and privacy echoes the ambitions of post-war families. The pride of maintaining a tidy home has not disappeared. The houses of the 1955-1960 period fascinate today because they mark a turning point. They represent a moment when Britain rebuilt with optimism and clarity. They reflect a society moving from hardship toward comfort, and they show how well-designed, modest homes can endure through generations. Each surviving property carries the history of a country redefining its future.